There's two ways to answer the bad apples argument. UNRWA is rotten to the core, and the way that we at IMPACT-se have been proving this is by reviewing for over 20 years the education, textbooks, and teaching materials that UNRWA staff both develop, teach, and use every single day to thousands of kids and thousands of and hundreds of schools in Gaza. And this is happening every day. It's not one or two teachers. These are hundreds of teachers that are indoctrinating. This is number one. Number two, the Ministry of Defense just said last week that 20%, 1 in 5 of UNRWA staffers are affiliated with Hamas or are Hamas members. And we've seen footage of UNRWA social workers snatch the body of an innocent Israeli civilian, which is being held in Gaza at this time. So the rot is all the way to its core. We've seen the evidence under UNRWA's own headquarters connecting with electricity cables to Hamas's server farm to give it intelligence and power. And I don't know what other evidence people need to see to understand that this is not just a few bad apples.
So many aid groups are deeply concerned about the future of Gaza's population without UNRWA. Why is that the case?
Well, there are alternatives to UNRWA, and people need to understand that there are different ways that can be done. There is a catastrophe in terms of humanitarian situation in Gaza, and there are other organizations out there that could do a better job than UNRWA does. UNRWA has 13,000 staff in Gaza, who most of them themselves are either teachers, social workers, or medical staff who are displaced themselves, who are not going to work. The amount of staff that they have helping people get to aid is very, very minimal, whereas other organizations that can come in tomorrow, just in any other scenario of crisis in the world, let's say Sudan, for example, where there's over 8 million people that are displaced, you can have organizations such as UNICEF do education and write curricula that's based on UNESCO standards. You can have WHO, the World Health Organization, who could do the health services. You can have other organizations that deal with shelter, with water, with food, like WFP, like any other crisis scenario in the world. Other organizations can come in and do a better job than UNRWA does now. And if the international community would really care about the Gazan population, it would replace UNRWA tomorrow, first and foremost with its disastrous education system, which led to October 7th, but secondly, do a better job in aid distribution through other UN NGOs.
Right now, what other organizations are actually functioning right now on the ground to fill in for UNRWA? I mean, who could immediately take over at this point?
So, like I said in my previous answer, there are different organizations that do this in other crisis scenarios, but immediately UNICEF can come in. Let's say there's a school that is now completely destroyed, and there are many that there were. You can open a tent tomorrow. You can take UNICEF, just one example, staffers on the ground to train trainers of teachers on a new curriculum that meets UNESCO standards, that teaches peace, tolerance, coexistence, and solving conflicts peacefully with Israelis, with Jews, remove all the anti-Semitism and hate from the existing host state, the Palestinian curriculum, which they've been using for years, and basically use the same existing infrastructure there with staff that are not affiliated with Hamas, who want a better future for their kids, to graduate through an education system that would lead them into the best universities, that would lead them into getting good jobs, that would give a bright future for them, for their kids, and for the future of Gaza.